Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Inspired Chats. Now, I'm Ryan Smith. Don't know if you can see it, but this is Luna. We've got Carl, we've got Sarah, Martin Shreve, and Susan Gardner. And we make up the Wellbeing team and the team for Inspired Chats. So hi guys.
Hi guys.
Hello.
So tonight we're actually going to be, I've not got the definition here, which is like, it's really poor on this one, but it's about planning. So basically, planning for me, it's basically making, breaking life down into manageable chunks and being able to take every day in a set way. That's pretty much planning for me. I don't know about you guys, but that's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that we're going to have to sort of get our hands on because the summer holidays is approaching. You know, if anybody out there's got children, they all break up next Friday for 6 weeks. And then the fun begins where you're trying to sort them out and get on with your own work. And then you've got partners and family and everything else. Some people maybe have booked a holiday, I guess, whether that doesn't mean to say that necessarily going on it, but they're going to be at home, aren't they? So you've still got all that sort of things to plan. And then, you know, if you've got weeks off at work, I mean, it's all going to be, I mean, it's something we have to do every year, but this year it's going to be very challenging, I think.
It's going to be really difficult on that topic. So I'm a mental health patient. I have mental health issues, and that's one of the reasons why I'm sat here. But I'm also a project manager, and planning is a large part of what I do for my job. In my personal life, I'm horrendous at it. I do it at work all day. I don't do it when I get home. So take today, I'm looking at having next week off to go on holiday. And what you was just saying, Sarah, was about holidays being difficult this year. I thought, I know, we'll book a cottage somewhere. They're all booked up. There's no cottages, and the ones you can find are £200 a night.
Yeah, I know, because I've looked as well.
Were we bidding on the same cottage?
Probably. There's nothing.
I had a brainwave, similar sort of ideas, and I thought, you know what? Nobody's going to think of this one. Canal boats. And then for a week, I was thinking, it's not going to be that expensive. How much can they charge you? And it was like £700 to £1,000 for a week. And I'm like, I'm going for 2 weeks abroad for that. But yeah, it shows you though how many people are just going to rush on things. And whereas before we'd probably planned it, and coming to, you know, this transition period that we are going through, people all having the same ideas and they're just rushing onto things, and it's crazy.
Yeah. I did initially think, I need to go, but then I thought, actually, I'm quite glad there isn't anything, because I don't think I've thought this through.
No.
And how much planning I need to think about, where in advance, where can you go, what's open, do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
In actual fact, I'm probably pleased, because if I just booked something, I might have gone, oh, hang on. You see what I mean? That's personally, that's for me. Because then there was lots of other planning involved, because I do like to plan.
You can have a staycation. You can stay at home and go for a day to Dovedale, a day up to Chatsworth, not go in the house though, etc., etc. Do you know what I mean?
But that still takes some planning to do. Where you're going to go, what you're going to be doing. And I mean, so coming from somebody from like your background, Carl, I mean, how would you plan around your mental health and going to places? I mean, not knowing what you do, how would that affect you?
So you'll notice that I didn't take part for a couple of weeks in these shows. Yeah. I was in a mental health bad place.
Right.
I was struggling. I had issues, and I couldn't face. I just couldn't take part in the shows, which is something that I love doing. And it's not because I didn't want to, it's just because I just couldn't. I needed some space and some time on my own. And my mum and dad come round, and my wife sat here, and we're all talking, and I was in the hospital a couple of times, and you just get on with it, and you can't plan for it, but what you can do is when it does happen is you've got so I've got phone numbers of people in my phone who can help me when I'm in a bad situation or when I'm in a bad place. So the first person I phoned when I started to feel bad was the consultant secretary. So that is a plan in itself. Spoke to the consultant secretary. She arranged for one of the registrars to see me, and then 2 days later the consultant saw me, and that's just the cycle of living with my particular case of mental health. It doesn't mean it's any better or worse than it would be if I didn't have it. It's just part of my life, and that's how I get on with things. But like my physical training and the stuff that I'm doing for my triathlons, I've been looking today for events that take part in 2 years' time and planning where I might go and what I might do. And then that breaks down to, if I'm going to do that, what do I need to involve? How am I going to ship my bike there? How do I get my wetsuit there? And it all starts to snowball, and you start to think there's a lot more involved than just getting on a plane. And then, of course, is will we be allowed to travel where I want to go?
Yeah.
So what about you, Susan? Obviously, I mean, how do you go about planning life in general?
Well, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ryan? And I think exactly what Carl has just described there, to take one area and just focus on that, and look at how best you what your outcome is, what are you aiming for, where are you versus what you're aiming for, so that you can then maybe work it backwards to where you are in terms of the steps that you need to put in place to support you. And just as Carl's saying, having a list of key people, the resources, where telephone numbers, it's all that sort of planning puts, it gives you peace of mind, because you know what to do when something takes you away from the plan, and at least you have a contingency plan. So there's like a plan for a plan, isn't there?
Yeah.
It gets a bit complicated. However, the whole purpose is to keep it as simple as possible, so that it's life can be complex and complicated. So the more simple that we can plan, the easier it is for us to have that vision of where we are going versus where we are currently.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's like planning your day-to-day life. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do like on a Monday? Are you going to go to work? Are you going to come back? Are you going to cook tea? Are you going to go shopping? And it's having them bullet points for me, having what's going to happen on that day. And then from that bullet point, you can expand out. So take shopping, you're going to go and have your shopping list.
Yeah.
And things like that. So the whole day itself is quite simple. And then it's having them spurts that, like Carl says, going to work, but then at work he's really good at planning, and that's what he does at work. He has that plan at work, but when he comes home, what's he going to do? Training. Well, what's he going to do in that training session? So it's expanding out from that little bullet point on every day, like you say, keeping it simple. And I think that's a really good way forward. I mean, for myself, I'm absolutely bricking it. I mean, I shouldn't, because I try and have a course every year, but I'm just about to go into my biggest course yet, and it's the next 4 or 5 months working, trying to set my business back up properly, get it all up and running, getting into working with the new gym, this and studying at the same time. It's just like, and obviously you got a Springer Spaniel, got a cat, we got a wife that's got a horse, and it's just like, what do I do? I mean,
you got a dog?
You what? Have I got a dog? No.
Got a dog?
Where's the dog? What's this?
I completely can relate, Ryan, because, well, I think we all can. We've all got different arenas of our life. We've got our work, we've got home, we've got social, we've got external things and projects that are happening at the moment. And what I've found is, because I like a list, but my lists used to be massive. I'd have a master list and then lots of little lists, and it just got too much. So in the end, I have this planner, and I just make 3 bullet points for things that, the most important things that need to be done at home, 3 for my work, and 3 that I call miscellaneous because they don't fit into the others. And then I don't break my neck trying to do more than is necessary and end up being absolutely overwhelmed. So I do have a bigger list of things that will need doing, but each day I just do 3 of each. So that's kind of chunking down, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were you talking about the chunking down from a project management perspective? All 3 of you have just described a work breakdown structure, which is an academic way of breaking work down, where you have top level. Well, say if you're mowing your lawn, top level is you're going to mow your lawn. Then the constituent parts are you're going to mow your lawn, you're going to trim the grass, you're going to recycle the leaves. And then you take the mowing the lawn, you break that down further, fill it up with petrol, make sure the blade's sharp, make sure the engine's got oil in it, etc., etc. And you can break it. It could just go down different levels, and each level adds a different level of complexity. And the key thing is, what level of complexity do you need to manage at? If you're the person in charge of sharpening the blades, you don't need to know about who's doing the strimming.
No.
You need to make sure you're doing that. But if you're the person who's overall in charge of taking the money from the customer, making sure that the lawn's mowed right, you need to have an overview of everything. You don't need the detail of.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's just typical like military planning as well. You're on a mission. You've got the bloke at the top that wants to do all these things, but then you've got all your different. Well, do you need the armored division there? Do you need the infantry there? Do you need the logistics there? Or what part of the logistics do you need? Do you need the chefs there? Do you need catering there? And everything that goes in between. The bloke at the top just needs to know, like you say, everything that's going on. It's up to the individual regiments, battalions, and platoons, the sections and stuff, to know that the finer details. But you don't need to the whole picture as a whole. Like you say, it's not key to what everything else happens. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does totally.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then you'll have some days when it all doesn't go to plan because other distractions occur. Life throws stuff at you, and you go, "What was I doing?"
I have a name for them days, and it rhymes with duck. Duck it days they are.
Yeah, and they're okay, and they happen. And I think the key is to not beat ourselves up about it.
No, and life does change. Life gets in the way sometimes. The best laid plans, you have to understand that although you've spent probably weeks planning that, building that shed, or it's raining outside, you're not going to want to do it. It's a duck it day,
Duck it day. Like
it is, and if it gets put back by a couple of days, couple of weeks, but you know what? That's absolutely fine. I'm not a fan of lists. My wife used to write me lists out. I used to screw them up, and I'm like, it'll get done when it gets done. But then when I come to do a job, I do have that plan in my head of how it's going to come together. But it's life. It gets in the way, and sometimes that's like you say, that's fine.
Yeah. And you see, I used to have a problem with that many years ago. I used to think, oh my God, I've not done this. And my levels of perfectionism, we've gone back to that again. It just used to make me more and more anxious, because the more I did, the higher the wall got, and the more I was trying to achieve. In the end, I had to unplug myself, because it didn't. It had quite a big impact on my well-being. So I've learnt now to have duck it days.
Yeah.
And give myself a break.
Yeah. And that's another one for me, other people's expectations. Some people might have the best laid plans out in the world, and unfortunately there's times when I think to myself, do you know what, today I'm going to duck it, you know. And it's tough. It's tough because people have, especially when, I mean, I'll go back to 2016, 2017. My wife wanted me to get better. She had certain expectations of me. And it was just like, but I don't want to do any, I can't get out of bed today. And then it has a negative spiral. But as soon as I realised that the most important person in that there is myself, and until I'm better, I can't do it. How do I plan for myself to get better? And then don't worry about everything else that's going on around you. Focus on you.
Yeah, because then you can put a care plan, support plan, get help, do whatever, and then you can go from there, can't you?
Yeah.
Because when we're in a state of whatever the word is, I can't think. You just don't know where to focus. You don't know where to go, and that's when it seems overwhelming, and you don't actually get anywhere. So sometimes it's best just to say, "I'm having a rest."
I thought you were going to use mine then.
I really did. So yeah, I mean, planning's good for confidence and preparation for big projects and big things, but I think it's better to start small.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like we say, some days it's going to be tough, and you think, can't be bothered today. It's Xbox. You know, fine, that's fine. I'm going to run. You know.
Has anybody ever? Don't answer this if you don't feel comfortable answering it, but I've had issues with my weight, particularly this year. And one of the things that I've found help me overcome it is planning what I eat. And there's an app called MyFitnessPal where you can put in for today what you're going to eat, how much of it you're going to eat, and when you're going to eat it. And I've been doing that. I've only just thought about it as we've been talking, but I've been doing that every day for 7 months now. Everything that I've eaten, right down to how much water I drink, gets logged.
That's it. I mean, sometimes planning is not actually about planning forward. For me, it's what you have done. And then when you start putting the diary, it's like having a diary, having like that journal. Everything that you've done there will then help you build that bigger picture for what's going to happen tomorrow. It's like weight-wise, Carl, definitely. I mean, that's another big stigma. I mean, blokes talking about, I mean, obviously I know it's a tough subjects across the board, but blokes talking about their weight, their mental health and their image. I mean, I don't know where you stand on this one, Sarah, but blokes do suffer with their image, you know, but it's harder to talk about because it's not the manly thing to do. And I mean, at the moment, I'm probably the biggest I've been in 5-6 years. I mean, I'm 16 something stone at the moment, and that for me is just unreal. I need to get myself back down to 14, but do you know what? That's who I am right now, and that's fine. You know, what will happen tomorrow is tomorrow's day. I mean, my wife's gone on a mad one now, and she's planned out. She started to write down all the meals and stuff. And so this afternoon I've gone shopping and I've done everything. And I mean, I'm the cook. My wife would burn a salad in a microwave, so I don't get her to cook.
Yeah,
it's true.
Ryan.
Yeah. No,
I stayed at a friend's house once, right, and she sent me a picture of some pasta, and she went, "Is this how you cook pasta?" And no word of a lie, it was a spaghetti pasta, whole end were black, and I'm like, "Have you boiled it?" And she was like, "No, but it's on fire." So when I say she'd burn a salad in the microwave, that's genuine.
Oh, bless. Well, cooking's not for everybody, I have to say. I think you made a valid point there, Ryan, when you said that currently it's just about being alive and accepting yourself as you are today. And with any with any image coaching or any body positivity or anything like that, if you want to go on the journey, we always start with appreciating who you are and what you have today.
Mm.
Because it's so important. It's harder to move forward when you take yourself for granted, or you just don't appreciate your physical self and everything that it does for you now and today. And if you can start just, start looking at life like you guys do, but using it to look at yourself more positively and look for the good stuff, not just aesthetically, but what you have to offer the world, you will see yourself as a bigger picture rather than just about what you see on the scale and how big your clothes are. Okay, I mean, we are struggling with our health. Everybody is at the moment, because we can't get to the resources that we would normally do, gyms and stuff like that. But many people are going for runs, aren't they, Carl?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Walking their dog. Ryan, you've been running as well. I've seen you.
Yeah.
And I've been doing walks. You do know what I mean? So there are little things that we can do and that we can appreciate now. And that's important in order to move forward. But if we start trying to control numbers and food intake and stuff like that, unless it's a clinical reason, for maybe you have an eating disorder or something like that, it's more important to be mindful of what you're putting in your mouth, whether it's colourful rainbow plate, maybe cutting this back a little bit, adding a bit more of that, and just small things rather than a complete overhaul all at once. It's like cutting smoking or drinking on day one. It doesn't work that in a long term. I think it's easier with going back to chunking it down again, but I think that's always an easier, more manageable thing to do.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
for me,
my personal.
Yeah, for me, they do some good with helping people eat better, but I'm not a fan of things like Weight Watchers or Slimming World. I'm really not a fan of them. And one of the reasons being is because they focus, and I'm going to talk about weight on this one. They do talk about specifically the scales and the weight. You've lost 5 pounds, you've lost 10 pounds. Well, what happens when I go into the gym and I start building muscle, and that scale either stays the same or it increases? It's not that I've put fat on, but I've put muscle on. And people need to, for me, again, people need to realise the difference. A ton of feathers and a ton of bricks, although they weigh a ton, they're going to have 2 different densities,
Yeah,
and that's the same
BMI.
as fat. Yeah, and that's the same as fat and muscle. You imagine that ton of feathers as the ton of fat, and you imagine that ton of bricks as the ton of muscle. You're going to need a lot less, but it's going to weigh the same. And that's why I'm not a fan of looking at scales and things like that. Focus on how you feel. Focus on what your waist looks like, and not what the scale says.
Yeah, because BMI, although it's used as a yardstick, shall we say, in clinical settings, it's actually, like you say, if you have bodybuilders, they're actually classed, their BMI are being morbidly obese because they are more muscle than anything else. Yeah. So it's something to use. You've got to be mindful of BMI and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, you look at somebody like the World Strongmen and stuff, like Eddie Hall and things like that, 33 stone.
Jeff Capes, he was the original and best.
You are?
Jeff Capes, he was the best.
All right. That's another argument for another day, Carl. No, but what I'm saying is, they're fit although they're clinically obese, morbidly obese, they're fit for purpose. What they are fit for purpose.
I can relate to everything you're saying about weight, because it was January of this year, I was over 22 stone and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I didn't realise it at the time, but I was miserable. None of my clothes fitted. I was triple XL shirt size, 19.5-inch collar size, 42-inch waist, and they were all tight on me. And it was a conversation I had where I decided I'm going to get it off, and I started running. And you guys all know my story, but I've been running 4 times a week since January. And although I still aspire to get down to Ryan's 16.5 stone, I look and feel so much better now than when I did even 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And it's when you have shorts, like I'm wearing a pair of shorts now, which are a size a lot smaller than what I was before. And it just, that little thing, nobody in the world knows what size you are except you. It's just that feeling of knowing I've made a smaller size makes you feel so much better. And you're not running the risk of taking someone's eye out if your button goes pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The thing is, sorry.
I was just going to say it's a wonderful sign, isn't it, for you? It's very symbolic, but it's very real that you have achieved that. And actually, you know, you say there, Carl, that nobody else knows what that size is for you, but actually it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks anyway, because it's about what you think and it's about what you feel, how you feel inside your body. You know, that's what's important, isn't it? And but that's where I think you were saying earlier, Sarah, about how you know, we do have this tendency, there is a tendency to get sucked into this way of thinking that this person is thinking this about us and that person's thinking this about us, and we get ourselves into knots over what we think other people are thinking about ourselves. But you know, they're too busy thinking about themselves, that they're not actually thinking about us.
Yeah. Yeah. We do get obsessed with numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, sizes, weights, stuff like that, which is all completely individual to our own differences as human beings. We are built differently. We have different genetics. We, you know, we do compare ourselves to others. That is unfortunately one of the part of being a human being. But I think just to go anywhere and make any improvements with ourselves, whether it is weight or mindset or anything, it's accepting where you are and recognizing what you need today that helps you then move forward in whatever way it needs to be.
And that's where planning comes in.
Yeah.
You know, you plan for tomorrow, but the journey might take a different direction at times. And it's knowing that and making it, you know, realizing it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay to change the plan. Because if
Yeah.
something actually, you know, there may be an element to that plan that just isn't working. Something else may have changed in the dynamics in the household or, you know, at work or wherever, and that impacts on your plan. I've had this with my schedule just recently. And because at the beginning of lockdown, I knew for me, I needed to have a schedule so that I could look at the infrastructure within Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, and what I wanted to happen on those days, and then what appointments I was prepared to do on those but not those. And you know, and that it takes it out of the head, doesn't it? If you're trying to work it all out in your head all the time, it just, that's when again we can face the overwhelm. So I actually do what I call a brain dump, and I just put it all onto a big piece of paper, and then circle all the elements around the thing that I'm trying to scope out. So that way I score them out of 10 as to the priority and how important they are, and then I clump them together or have arrows linking them, and that's what helps me at the beginning of a plan of sorts, so that it gives me some semblance of order. It helps me find the starting point.
I mean, that's exactly, it's one way to write a joke as well. So me coming from, well, not coming, I've done a bit of stand-up in the past, stand-up comedy in the past, and one of the ways that you can write a joke, a new fresh joke, is a subject. So any subject. So you could say police cars, and that is your subject, or the police. And from there, you put everything that associates with the police. So it could be a cone in the road, it could be like a breathalyzer and things like that. And then they're on the outside, and then you do the same again for them little words. And that's how you build your jokes up. You know, everything's on the paper, and it just expands out. But that's how you plan a joke. You know, well, one of the ways that you can plan a joke, and it's.
Well, yeah, because planning can be organic, and it can actually uncover things that you'd not thought about before, and think, I want to go that way now. I mean, that could be business, it could be passions, it could be anything.
It's about taking that step back at times, and really, you know, and sometimes you have to focus on you here now, and then look where you want to go with things, and look at the different options, and then you can plan for that route there. But always understand that the best laid plans can always change.
Yeah. Yeah, so we want a growth mindset rather than the fix, which is
that's it.
more room to manoeuvre.
Well, thank you everybody for your time today. I think that's enough for today. Join us again next week when we'll be discussing another exciting topic, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.